you can imagine like your energy is running through, you're like an electrified being. And if you tap on certain points, acupressure points on your body, or touch the acupressure points on your body, you are stimulating the energy system. And while you're doing that, you're also using intention of the mind, making statements and using your thought and your mind, and the power of ritual. And if you're spiritual, you call in spirit to help. So it is truly a mind, body, spirit solution to letting go of the stuff you don't need anymore. And it works so quickly that one of the problems is your mind and your ego are like, no.
Hello, and welcome to the Emotional Expedition podcast. I'm Meg Thomas, and if you want to live a more open-hearted, magical life, it all starts with your emotions. This podcast will take you on a journey, helping you to better understand, express, release, and heal your emotions. Let's get exploring. Welcome. I am so grateful to be here with Reverend Lisa Sarick. She is an interspiritual minister and spiritual guide. She helps people return to their natural states by clearing away all that is not love and claiming all that is. She leads Sunday celebrations, which we're going to have to ask her about, teaches yoga and meditation, retreats and online courses, and just listen to the titles of her books. You will love her just based on this. Her two books are A Pissed Off Spiritual Person's Guide to Enlightenment and 12 Sermons to Get Your Shit Together. You're going to love her, and I am so delighted to share her with you. I've recently had the opportunity to experience a healing session of my own with her where she taught me all about EFT tapping, which was incredible. So welcome, Lisa. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm so honored to be here.
We are happy to have you. And so you have had quite a journey, which I've been doing some research on your path. And I would just love to know where it all started for you. So tell us a little bit about what Lisa was like as a child.
Okay. Oh, wow. We're going way back in the Wayback Machine. I was an artist, which my husband and I have passed down to my daughter as well. So I was kind of introverted, quiet. I was just all about art and creating things. I was a dancer. I went to art school for college. I have a fine arts degree. So yeah, I was kind of introverted. I always would surround myself with the people that would do the asking and all of that, which I sort of still do, you know? I mean, I've become definitely more comfortable in front of people, more comfortable doing things like this, more comfortable talking. I don't mind the spotlight, but I definitely would rather be more internal and just be more in my space, doing my thing, creating, letting energy flow, dance and art and things like that. There is an interesting event, I guess you could say, or something that happened to me when I was quite young. Now that I look back, is sort of an initial spiritual opening for me. I was probably 11 or 12, and my best friend lived, maybe a mile away. And then what we would do is we would walk towards each other and meet halfway if I was going to go to her house or she was going to come to my house. So there's this one path we would always walk, and we would meet in the woods on this path and then go whoever's house we were going to. So I was walking on one of those walks one day, and I felt really good. It was like a beautiful day. It was the perfect temperature. I just felt really good and well and healthy in my body. And I remember thinking for some reason I wanted to remember that, like as a reference point or something. And I just, as I was walking, just really felt how I was feeling in my body and just felt like so good, just felt perfectly well and healthy, and I felt my energy, and I can remember that right now. Like I can be there. literally, because I embodied that moment. I call it embodying the moment. I just did it, and I didn't really know why, but I guess I thought it was like, in case I need to remember what it feels like to feel, perfectly good and happy and whatever, which is something important to remember. But now I look at it like, now I teach drop into the present moment. I teach drop into your body. I mean, as yoga teachers, we teach like how it feels in your body and be there. So that was just like an interesting little blip that happened, kind of spontaneously. But now I can see that as kind of a thread throughout my life, as well as art, as well as creating art and moving spiritual energy, moving emotional energy. I think that was really helpful as a teenager, just going through adolescence, just growing and learning, always being able to express myself and move energy through artwork.
That's a beautiful story and such wonderful insight to have that at that time in your life when there were so many moments that could have been not as profound, of being able to actually drop into the physical body. It took me a long time to be able to connect with my body in that way. And I'm still learning it. So what a beautiful lesson to have so early on. Now I'm sensing a little bit of the paradox, which, everything is a paradox, of being a little more on the introverted side, but also being an artist, being a creator, being a creative. Were those ways of expressing your emotions and what you were feeling? Like, how did you hold that space of being both of those things?
I think there's I don't know Enneagrams very well, but isn't there one where you're like an introvert who likes the spotlight? Like, I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
Right? Like that. Like, I don't mind. Mm-hmm. So like I said, I was a dancer also, which I think that also helped me just be and get in my body. So I don't mind being on stage. I don't mind being on television. I don't mind. That is different. Or so you seeing my work, you seeing what I wrote or what I created. But I'm a introvert in my processing and in my, and I need alone time. Like when I recharge is not in group, it's alone. So I need that internal time and awareness.
That's so great. You bring that up. For so many of us feel that way, that we are both of those things. But I think the most important thing is knowing how you need to process, knowing how you need to heal and handle your emotions. I definitely tend to be that way as well, which is I can handle the spotlight and enjoy it, but I need ample amounts of alone time to be able to really move through the world. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I remember when I was in seminary, so fast forwarding a little bit, when I went to interfaith seminary, I remember in the beginning them telling us that there were introverts and extroverts processed differently. So, in a class of almost 100 people, however, sometimes people would raise their hand and they would just talk. They would just, like they needed to talk. And those people, I kind of get annoyed with that. I'm like, well, okay, like this is your internal processing, but not for them. For me, it's my internal processing. But some people need to do that out loud. They need to, and that's the difference between extroverts and one of the differences is that. So that helps me be a little more patient with that, because I realize, okay, that's just what they need to do. And like some people need to hear themselves talk. They literally do.
Yeah. I definitely have some of that in me.
Okay. Yeah. And that's fine. Yeah. But like you said, it is important to know, how do I recharge? Do I need some group energy or, I could go alone in a cabin in the woods and be so happy.
How do you go from art school as your major? I also was received a Bachelor of Fine Arts, so I know what that path feels like. How do you go from art school into a seminary school? What is that journey like for you? And was spirituality a part of your entire life up to that point?
Well, I was raised Catholic. So I would say that wasn't very spiritual for me. That was religion. And that was a lot of, learning the knowledge and learning the prayers and learning that was like a training that I didn't find particularly spiritual. I didn't find, not that you can't find spirituality that way, but I found it, as a kid, I had a lot of arguments in my mind when I was in church and they were saying things. I was like, that doesn't make sense. That's contradicting what you said about this. And I just had a lot of arguments with it and a lot of stuff. I was like, yeah, that's not right. That's just not true. So when I went to college, that was when I first started looking into other religions. I remember going to the library at my college and looking up Zen Buddhism just for like, what is that, and trying to read a Zen Buddhist book and being like, I don't even get what they're saying, but I just wanted like to hear what other religions believed, what other people thought, how other people were raised. And then after I got a fine arts degree, I wanted to help people. I wanted to somehow work in a helping profession. So I remember hearing about art therapy. And so I looked into what art therapy is and went to graduate school for art therapy. So I have a master's degree in art therapy and really realized, oh yeah, that's what is so healing, that the process of creating is healing. It moves things through you. I've been using it my whole life and I can help other people use it. When you have something inside you and you create something, you're literally moving the energy from inside you to something that's outside of you. And that can be so healing to help us process, to help us move stuff, just to help not have things stuck in our energy and in our bodies. And then I discovered yoga through the fitness world. So I was a dancer. So then I started teaching aerobics and all that. And someone at my gym was teaching yoga and I wandered into a yoga class, which was the first time I realized I didn't have to fight my body to keep it well and healthy. So I thought that in the fitness world, no pain, no gain type of attitude. This is a while ago, but so that I had to beat my body into submission was sort of the mentality that I had till I went to my first yoga class. And that makes you cry when you realize that in yoga class sometimes, that like, oh, I've been so mean to my body. And all I have to do is listen to it and love it and be in it. And I can still move and I can still be healthy and well. So then that I felt was very similar, moving energy. So when you stretch and open and you cry in a yoga class, or when you feel some emotion come up, it's because you're moving energy through your body. You're opening up energy channels. So I felt like the art was very similar to that. And then being a yoga teacher, I had a yoga studio with a business partner, wonderful business partner who's been on your podcast, Saraswati Om. And when we had our center, we become spiritual leaders for people as a yoga instructor. So people started asking me if I could marry them. This is a long version of how do I get to become a minister. Yeah. So people were asking if I could marry them. And I was like, I don't know, can I? Like, how do I do that? And I thought I would love to go to seminary. I mean, I know you can get ordained online and just get a certificate or something and do that, but I would love to go to a seminary. And I knew I couldn't become a priest. I mean, I grew up that way, but that's not an option, I don't think, yet for women. I went to One Spirit Interfaith Seminary. One Spirit Learning Alliance is the organization. It's in New York City. It's a wonderful organization helping to create interfaith ministers and interfaith counselors and teach interspirituality. So in my seminary, we studied all the major faith traditions of the world. So it's not interdenominational, it's interspiritual, it's interfaith, it's all of the spiritualities. And we believe that all paths can lead to the top of the mountain. We believe that it takes many heads to hold the wisdom of God. So no one has all the right answers, and your path can be varied. Your path can include different parts of different traditions, whatever helps you to open to spirit. I did attend interfaith seminary, studied with amazing teachers. So each religion that we studied, we had a very prominent teacher from that tradition teach us. It was really wonderful. And I love it. And I love officiating weddings, and I love services and ceremony and ritual. I think all that is so wonderful and so necessary. I just think the religion I grew up with didn't give me the feeling that I was seeking, the experience of God. So in my Sunday services, I lead one a month online, and it's church for the unchurched. It's you can have any religious background or no religious background.
Yeah.
So I have one coming up. Well, I have one every month. You can find it on my website. My website's lisasarick.com, and under events, there'll always be the next Soul Sunday. So my ministry, I guess, is the Spirit of Love Interfaith Community. So Soul, SOL, Spirit of Love. So the Soul Sundays are just a gathering where I lead a welcome and an opening, and we call to Spirit, call to the different elements. We call to our ancestors. We call to whoever is your spiritual liaison, whoever you believe, you want to call in. And then I offer a message that's been coming to me. It usually starts coming to me as soon as I plan the Soul Sunday. Then they, I guess, start telling me what's coming. I think I have spiritual guides and energies who I've always had a connection when I write, where I feel like I'm channeling some angels, some spirits, and what they want to say through me. So my writing always has flowed like that really easily. So I just call on them, and they tell me what we're going to talk about. And I pass along a message. I lead meditation, and that's it. It's really nice. It's a way to gather and all have the same intention of opening to spirit, but without any particular rules of a particular religion.
That feels so beautiful. I can't wait to attend one of those. So we will definitely put the link in the show notes of how to access that. Were you, just curious, were you doing these virtually before COVID, or did that kind of transition, was COVID a part of the experience of transitioning to the virtual world?
Yes, it was. Definitely. I had a wellness and yoga center here where I live now in Pennsylvania, and my lease for the space was up during 2020, July of 2020. So at that point, I let the space go and just went online. But I was leading them in my space along with my yoga classes and all of that. So yeah, lots of things changed right about 2020.
And I'm just amazed at the depth of connection that can exist on a Zoom or in some sort of virtual space, that the healing and the connection, the community, all of that can exist. And had you told me that before all of the last couple years, I'm not sure I would have believed it, but now I see it to be true.
Right. Yeah. And the energy, because there is no time or space that's a limit to energetic connection. That's not limited by, oh, I'm here and you're there. Who cares? That's not a limit. Another way that I realized that was I've always felt what someone else is feeling. So when I'm with someone, and I realized this when I was in art therapy graduate school, and I was working with people, with clients one-on-one, and it worked at 1 year. I had an internship in an outpatient mental health clinic. And so I would see people with different issues. And I had one client who had schizophrenia, and he was a wonderful artist. He wasn't prone to taking his medication, but we would work together and we'd create art, and, I was trying to, make a connection with him. And then when he would leave, I would feel confused. I would feel like my mind was going down all these tangents. And I had this really interesting experience. I was like, oh, I, in some ways, was taking that on. I was experiencing a little bit, which once I learned that, it could be helpful, because then I could let it go, right? And you have to be able to come back to yourself. And a lot of people who are, you might say you're an empath or you're sensitive. So you might have this experience where you take on other people's emotions, experience in the moment. And it's fine. It can be information, but you have to be able to let it, right, move it out and move it through you and come back to, okay, that was them. This is me. So when I work with someone one-on-one, that's helpful because I can feel what you're feeling. I know when energy is moved. I know when emotions are stuck somewhere, when we have moved it. So what I was saying, though, was then when I started doing sessions one-on-one over Zoom, I realized, oh, I still feel that. Because I would say, okay, close your eyes and tell me what you're feeling as you scan your body. And I'd say, okay, I'm feeling, a little tightness in my throat. And they would say, yeah, that's what I'm feeling. Okay, so I'm online with you. So I got it. So yeah, it works. It doesn't matter. I don't have to be in proximity.
Yeah, which I just experienced with you last week during our session was you were picking up on things I was feeling in my body, and we were both having that synchronicity. Do you have any tips for how you move it through your body? Like, is there anything you do that helps you to release someone else's energy? Because I think a lot of people who listen to this podcast do have that tendency to be more on the sensitive side and feeling other people's emotions. And if we're just like a sponge picking it up all day long, then that's where we are at the end of the day. Do you have any way that you help move it through your body?
Yeah, I have things I've learned from other people. So I have two things I would love to share. One is for before, one is preventative, and one is for afterwards.
Ooh, okay, perfect.
Yeah, the preventative I learned from Dr. Henry Grayson, who was my teacher of energy psychology techniques, the EFT that you talked about, tapping, all that energy clearing work. And Henry taught me zipping up. So if you think of like your energy, like a bubble around you, maybe your aura or some kind of energy bubble around you, we're always probably in some state of openness or closed, right? If you can think of having a zipper, like literally have a zipper, like from one foot up your leg and then up your center to the crown of your head. You can imagine that sometimes it's unzipped, sometimes it's zipped up, and it's probably in some state in between all the time. So if you feel good, if you know you're going to maybe a family gathering where someone who is difficult in your life is going to be, but you're still, having a relationship with them, or just any situation that you think might drain some of your energy or someone's going to be challenging. Before you go, feel that you're in a good state. Just get yourself, think good thoughts or just feel relaxed. If you feel good, zip that zipper up. And you can literally take your finger towards your foot and take the imaginary zipper up your leg and up your body, or you can just do it with your mind. You can just imagine zipping that zipper up. And then you're going to maintain how you feel when you go into the situation a little bit better. The other thing is if you maybe want to be open like I do when I meet with people one-on-one and feel the energy so you can kind of gauge when something is working or not working. I think this is a Donna Eden. I might have gotten this one from Donna Eden. She wrote Energy Medicine. So one of the techniques, I think it's from her, is imagine there's a tap at the base of your spine. So like right at your tailbone, like there's a tap, like a tap on a keg, or like mine is like, in my mind, mine is like a big iced tea canister that you'd have at a picnic, with a little tap that you open.
Okay. Like a little faucet. Right,
yeah.
Okay.
A little faucet.
Okay, I'm with you.
Yeah. A little faucet, I should say. So you imagine that's at the base of your spine, and you just open the faucet. You just turn it to whichever way, up or over, whatever's on, and you let all that pour out from your crown, down your body, down your spine. Just let it pour out. And don't worry, the earth will take it, transform it. It all recirculates. It's fine. Just let it all go out. And imagine any, negative stuff, any of someone else's stuff. And then when you're done, just close the tap. That's it.
Can you feel an immediate difference before and after? Because imagining it, I can feel it. Do you feel it every time? Yeah,
I feel it like, I also am visual. So for me, it's like a visual that stuff is flowing out.
Yeah.
And if you want it to be visual, you can. Yeah. And then I feel lighter, or I feel back to me, if that makes sense. I just feel back. to whatever I was feeling. Yeah, those are just
These
two. There's so
such
many,
great tools.
Okay,
yeah,
good.
that's so great. Going into the holiday season, I think we have a lot of moments that we can feel really challenged and or picking up other people's energy and whatever that is. That is huge. Thank you for that gift.
You're welcome.
Would you share about tapping? We have not had any conversations yet on the podcast about EFT and what that is and tapping.
Okay.
So can you just share what that world is all about?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'll tell you how I got into that world was,
yeah.
So actually, I got into it because I read an article in Oprah magazine a long time ago. This was at the beginning of my yoga center with Saraswati. And there was an excerpt from Mindful Loving, which is a wonderful book by my teacher, Henry Grayson. It's a wonderful book about relationships and energy in relationships and how you can change your energy and change the relationship. So I read an excerpt from Mindful Loving, and then I got the book, and I was just really into it. And then I found out that Henry was teaching a weekend workshop at Kripalu Center for Yoga and Health, which is where I was trained as a yoga teacher. I went to that training, and it was using energy psychology techniques like emotional freedom technique, EFT. So the EFT stands for emotional freedom technique. A lot of people know it as tapping. So that's one of the energy psychology techniques that he was using. And we were focusing on relationships, but using EFT, using energy psychology to release beliefs that we had about relationships, old trauma from other relationships, thought patterns, things that were interfering in our happiness in relationships. And I just got it. It just made sense to me. I got it. I started assisting him in the workshops. I started helping him teach other therapists, psychologists, healers who wanted to use it for other people. So what it is using the energy system of the body, which you can think of like the energy meridians, like in Chinese medicine, or the nadis in yoga. We call them the nadis, energies that runs through your body. So you can imagine like your energy is running through. You're like an electrified being. And if you tap on certain points, acupressure points on your body, or touch the acupressure points on your body, you're stimulating the energy system. And while you're doing that, you're also using intention of the mind, making statements and using your thought and your mind, and the power of ritual. And if you're spiritual, you call in spirit to help. So it is truly a mind, body, spirit solution to letting go of the stuff you don't need anymore. And it works so quickly that one of the problems is your mind and your ego are like, no. Right, Meg? Your mind's
this
like,
was me.
Yeah, no,
this was totally me. I was like, how is that within 30 seconds of starting it, I felt it. And I was like, no, this isn't possible. Like, I was so skeptical going into it. We were tapping on the forehead and the crown and the sides of the eyes and eyebrow. And I'm like, how is this working? Yeah. Like, I felt it though. I felt it immediately.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's a challenge you have to overcome.
It is a little bit of a challenge to have to overcome. Like, if you could just let go of how it's working, or because we think we have to work so hard at stuff. That is a block on the spiritual path in general, that we think things have to take time. Anything worthwhile is hard, blah, blah, blah. Like, that's just a block on the spiritual path, when, a lot of spiritual teachers, my favorite meditation teacher is Adyashanti, who's, he says there's no, and Eckhart Tolle too will say there's no time. Like, you could be enlightened right now. You don't have to work on the spiritual path for 10 years before you've earned whatever. But part of why it takes us so long is because we think it's going to take us so long to be free of our old stuff, to, have self-realization, the yogis are working their whole lifetime at yoga to reach enlightenment.
Yeah.
It can be right now.
We have to go be in a cave, right? We have to be in a cave for 40 years, not see any other humans. 40 days and 40 nights.
Right? Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
Yes. It's like, and that's not realistic for the world that we live in. So,
Right.
I mean, can you do tapping in just super short sessions? Like, is it something that you could do for 3 minutes and it changes your day? Or is it a more extensive practice? I know with you, I got to experience what a full session felt like. So I'm just
Yeah.
wondering in ways of meditation or breathing can so quickly change how you're feeling. Can you do that with tapping?
Yes, definitely. I think it's helpful to have a teacher at first, like with yoga or with
Mm-hmm.
or breath work, like have a teacher teach you the technique and then just use it whenever. I just did the other day. I was like, wait, I have a thought that I can't remember what it was now. I realized I had a thought of something that's blocking me from just blossoming in my work. And I was like, oh, wait, I got to tap. And I just tapped on that real quick while I was thinking that thought.
Really?
But it's
Yeah.
helpful, I think. And sometimes people do come to me for that, like, just teach me this. And I'm like, you don't need to keep seeing me for 5 years. Just let me teach you this and then go.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes what's helpful by having me guide you, especially in the beginning, also is I help you find the thing that is the block. So maybe
Right.
you're feeling, yeah, we have to kind of point it out. Like the
Because I,
block is maybe this thought.
yeah, because what I heard you say about this recent experience you just had was you had enough awareness of, oh, I'm having the thought. You knew what the
Mm-hmm.
thought was, and then you were able to tap on it. But for some of us, we don't even know what the negative thought pattern is or what the
Right.
story we've been carrying our whole life, which, like you shared so many moments, which is anything worth having is, hard to get to,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you can
tap
only
that
have
one
that
out.
fulfillment.
Yeah, let's tap that one
Yeah.
out. Yeah,
Mm,
anything like that can be tapped on. Also trauma. And if you're working with trauma, it is helpful to have someone else there to help witness, to help hold the space. Most of us know a lot of our trauma. Some of it we might not know, and you can even
mhm.
use clearing on trauma that you might not even remember. Some of it's pre-verbal, like when we were babies, but we know like the situation was not good that we were in. So yeah, it's helpful for all of that. But yeah, once you know the technique, you can use it as a little daily practice.
I'm fascinated by what you just said. And I'm in a book club for The Body Keeps the Score right now. And so
Mm,
there are traumas that we experience that we are not consciously aware of, that, our mind
right.
has worked to protect us from. So what you're saying is tapping can also help you release things that you don't know at age 6. I experienced this exact thing. Tapping can help you to release things that you don't know what they are. Is that what you were saying?
Absolutely. Yeah. And there can
Mm.
even be, because there can be in utero trauma if if you
Hmm.
know what was happening when your mother was pregnant and the situation was fraught or whatever, that things like that you can also heal. A lot of times we can feel where it is in our bodies. If you scan your body when you're thinking of it, you might be able to find where it is in your body. But you can also just say, if the situation wasn't good when you were a baby or when you were in your mother's womb, or you can just direct your mind to go where this is stored to clear it. Just tell your mind,
Mm.
okay, I'm going to do a clearing on it. Just go ahead and, go where it is. Since we're using the body and the mind and the spirit, we can, if one doesn't know, another one does. Do you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Does that make sense?
Yeah. How is tapping different from EMDR, which I know that is something
Hmm.
you also do, and
Yeah.
it's also something we have not spoke of yet on the podcast. So if you can share a little bit about what EMDR is and just how it works a little differently.
Yeah. EMDR is the initial stand for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. And it's just moving your eyes back and forth from right to left. And when you have someone guiding you, they'll move their fingers. once you know this, you can use it for yourself by finding something on the left and something on the right that you alternately look at with your eyes, kind of like tick tock, back and forth. And the story goes that I can't remember who it was right now that invented it, but was having some emotional experience or was very upset and was walking on a university campus or something and was like noticing something. There was a lot of things going on to their right and to their left and to their right. And they were looking back and forth and sort of realizing that for some reason calmed all the upset in the body. So when you are thinking about the trauma or remembering that, if you do that, you're stimulating the right side and the left side of the brain alternately. So there are other techniques that use this right and left side of the brain thing. Like you can slap one shoulder and the other shoulder, or one knee and the other knee. Like take your hand across, so your right hand to your left knee, your left hand to your right knee. So anything that goes across the body, we're using the right side and the left side alternately while you're thinking of the upsetting event, the trauma. It's not like we can erase our memories. We're not going to erase it from our brain, but it takes the charge down to a great degree. I'm not exactly sure the scientific explanation for that. I helped someone who had experienced a very violent trauma and was having nightmares, probably some level of PTSD and nightmares. Mm-hmm. And I don't think I don't think this is helpful like the day after, but at some point mm-hmm. after a trauma like that, where you experience or you've seen, it was very visual. It was this person had walked in on a violent scene and seen this. And so that vision is in their mind. And we did EMDR several times, which eliminated the nightmares. So eliminating the charge of that image.
Wow.
I think it's really helpful for things like that, but it can also be used for beliefs. And sometimes a belief stems from a trauma, mm-hmm. right? So if we go back to the trauma that originated it and clear that can be helpful.
That's super powerful. And my understanding of EMDR is it lasts. This isn't like something you have to go, once you've released the charge, then it's not something you have to continually do every single week kind of thing. Is that correct in that thinking?
That's my experience as well, but you may have to because you believe it, right? You may have to because you can't believe that. The reason why you'd have to do it more is because you don't believe it can be let go in one moment. And that's okay. Then just do it again. Do it again, right?
I kind of love that. Yeah, I love that even when you're skeptical coming to these different modalities, that even when you're skeptical, it still can work so quickly beyond that. And then it's like you almost have to reprogram yourself to believe that it is possible.
Yeah, or just do it some more then. It's okay. Like meet yourself where meet yourself where you are.
Yeah.
Just the more you can let go of the ego idea that it has to be hard, the quicker it's going to work. Because all of it is, right, it's just mind concepts. It's invisible. It's not even a real thing. It's thought patterns are just mind concepts. I mean, they are a neural pathway sometimes that you've worn, like we have well-worn neural pathways in the brain. So this happens and my mind goes there. Or, if you're a negative thinker, always, worrying or whatever, like you definitely have pathways that are worn and you can wear a new pathway. It's okay. Just let that one cover over with grass and weeds and just wear a new path.
Yeah. Oh, I have such a visual of the pathways of the brain that in these ways that just we continue. And I think for me, like that's the first part is having the awareness of, okay, here I am, like I'm faced with this familiar feeling that whatever the story is that I keep repeating in all different ways. Like one of my stories is things get taken from me without my permission. And so I have this story over and over again that just shows up. And it's a deep groove. Like that pathway is a very deep pathway that I have to work. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just make a new one. Yeah. Yeah. Henry, I was going to say something that Henry would say about that, about just those old pathways. So I can't remember what I was going to say. Sorry.
That's okay.
Totally lost my train of thought.
Not a problem. That wasn't meant to be. Wasn't meant to be. And these sessions, I mean, my experience was totally virtual. So you don't have to be in person to do these kind of tapping or EMDR sessions, right?
No, you don't have to be in person. It definitely can work. And it's a short-term thing. I see people maybe 4 or 5 sessions and then just go and live and see how that did. See what that did for you. See what that changed. And then people might come back and go, okay, now this keeps coming up. So then you can do, don't work on yourself all the time. Sometimes just live.
I like that. Yeah.
Sometimes just live it and see, okay, look at me now. Wow.
Yeah. Because it can be exhausting. It can, when we're headed down this path of healing. I mean, even I, keep a monthly budget in my life, and I have a category every single month for healing. And it's like, there can be months where you've done too many things, like just let it be. So thank you for giving us all permission to not have to be working at it all the time.
Definitely not. just live it, see how it feels. Yeah.
This has been just so delightful. We would love to know some more about you with some rapid fire questions. Are you ready for these?
Ready.
Okay. What is your favorite book? And if you have more than one, we allow it. We know that is a really hard question. So what's your favorite book?
Okay. True Meditation by Adyashanti. And number 2, Emmanuel's book. Do you know Emmanuel's book?
No, tell us more about that.
Okay, so Adyashanti is my favorite meditation teacher. True Meditation is really the basics of meditation.
Okay.
And Emmanuel's book is a channeled book. It's pretty old. I think I want to say in the 80s maybe. Pat Rodegast channeled a group of spirits, and a lot of times when people channel a group of spirits, it's like some energy that's not just one being, but a bunch of beings, and they give themselves a name. Like Abraham, like a lot of people have heard of Abraham. Esther channels Abraham. It's the same thing. They say, call us Emmanuel.
Okay.
They refer to themselves as Emmanuel, but they're a group of energy or spirits. And here's the subtitle of this book: A Manual for Living Comfortably in the Cosmos. A manual for living comfortably in the cosmos. It's really good.
It looks like you have a lot of pages marked in your book. So it looks
I do,
like...
Yeah.
Okay, we're adding that to the list. I've never heard of it, so thank you.
I'm going to read you something from it. So
ooh, okay. Yeah. What are you currently reading?
I'm currently reading Atomic Habits by James Clear. You know that one?
Yeah. Right before Dharma closed down, right before COVID, another yoga teacher and I led a retreat on atomic habits and using James Clear and also I think Gretchen Rubin's work together. And so, for habit building book, like it truly is the best habit building book I've ever read in my life.
Yeah, so good. I don't read novels. I don't read fiction. I try. People tell me, but this one's so good. And I'm like, I can't do it. I only read spiritual books or helpful books or, I don't know.
What is one thing that you know for sure?
Okay, this is a paradox. I know that I don't know anything for sure. I'm a very opinionated person. I do have very strong opinions and thoughts, and I've learned to not believe any of them for sure. So I don't want to think that I know it and I've got it and it's done. This is just what I think right now. Everything is what I know right now. It's open to more experience and more information that might change it.
I like that. That one is the ultimate paradox.
It is. Okay. I know that I don't know.
Yeah. And it feels like freedom in that we don't have to know everything.
I think a lot of the problem is the world's problems, if we want to get global, is people thinking that they know. What if everyone just softened their belief that they knew that they were right, that their way was right, that, just a little more mystery.
And do you have a favorite quote or poem that you want to share with us? Was this from that first book you mentioned?
Yeah, this is going to be from Emmanuel's book.
Oh, okay. From Emmanuel's book. Here we are.
This is Emmanuel. Some of it is question and answer, is things that people asked Emmanuel and then their answer. The question here is, please talk about anger. It is such a spiritual downer. What are some practical ways to deal with it? That was the question put to Emmanuel. And their answer is, stop calling it a spiritual downer for one. The fact that you can spontaneously feel anything is a joy and a remarkable gift. Are you aware of how many human beings believe they must filter even the most intense emotions through the intellect in order to maintain control? A most painful circumstance. Celebrate your spontaneity. It is not a spiritual downer, but an indication that if your anger can erupt, so can your heart open, and so can God speak to you.
I'm just taking that in. That is so perfect for where I am personally and for this podcast of emotions, and all emotions are valuable.
Are valuable. We can feel them all. And if we can have those, imagine all the experiences we can have. Imagine the amount of spirit that can come in. Imagine the amount of joy we can have. Yeah, it's all good.
Yeah. Well, this has truly been a gift. I'm really grateful to have gotten to know you better through this process. And your Instagram is at Lisa Sarick, LISASARICK, and your website, lisasarick.com. Definitely check out the Sunday celebrations, the soul celebrations. And if you want to work privately with Lisa, she is incredible, and I highly recommend that. I will definitely be doing more with her, and I'm just so grateful for her introducing me to this world of tapping, and it just seems you've beautifully woven all of these different modalities for moving energy through the body. So it's not like a one size fits all kind of approach.
Right. Yeah. Find what works for you.
Anything else you want to share?
I just want to say thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me. And it has been so nice to get to know you some more, and keep doing this great work. Just encouraging people to feel. That's huge. It's beautiful.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for tuning into the episode, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. If you're ready to dive deeper into your own emotional expedition, I invite you to join me in an intimate 8-week virtual book study of Brené Brown's Atlas of the Heart. And in case you're not quite ready to join the study, I wanted to share a free offering that I often suggest to people as a little bit of a compass to get them started on their emotional journey: the meditation to alleviate stress. You can find the meditation and the book study linked below. I'm so grateful you're here. Thank you for listening. And if you loved this episode, will you please share it with a friend or two? Be sure to rate, review, and follow the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts so you're sure to never miss a single episode.
This podcast is part of the Sound Advice FM network. Sound Advice FM, women's voices amplified.